The G7 summit, held in Canada on June 22, 2025, brought together leaders from the world's most advanced economies: Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the US. Against the backdrop of the picturesque Canadian landscape, these influential figures gathered not just to reaffirm old alliances, but to confront some of the most pressing challenges of our time. The summit venue buzzed with anticipation as convoys arrived, flags fluttered, and the world's attention turned to this pivotal meeting. This year's meeting unfolded under intense global scrutiny, with urgent crises demanding immediate action. The eyes of the world's media were fixed on the summit, as journalists and analysts speculated about what decisions might emerge from behind closed doors. The stakes had rarely been higher, and every move was closely watched. The agenda was dominated by the ongoing wars in Ukraine and Gaza, and the escalating conflict between Israel and Iran, all threatening to destabilize the world order. These conflicts had sent shockwaves through the international community, raising fears of wider instability and humanitarian crises. The leaders faced the daunting task of finding common ground on how to respond to these urgent threats. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, known for his steady leadership and diplomatic skill, hosted the summit, aiming to forge consensus among leaders with sharply divergent views. Carney's reputation for calm under pressure was put to the test as he worked to bridge divides and encourage open dialogue. His role as host was crucial in setting the tone for constructive negotiations. The presence of U.S. President Donald Trump, famous for his unpredictable approach and bold rhetoric, heightened anticipation and tension. His arrival was met with both curiosity and concern, as allies and rivals alike wondered how his positions might influence the summit's outcomes. Trump's unique style added an extra layer of complexity to already delicate discussions. The world watched to see if the G7 could overcome internal divisions and deliver unified strategies in a time of global crisis. From living rooms to newsrooms, people everywhere followed the developments, hoping for signs of cooperation and decisive action. The summit's decisions would have far-reaching consequences for millions. In an era of rising nationalism and shifting alliances, the summit tested whether collaborative leadership could still function effectively. The leaders faced not only external threats, but also the challenge of maintaining unity within their own ranks. Their ability to set aside differences and work together would be a measure of the G7's continued relevance. The outcomes would reveal if the G7 could remain a beacon of stability in an increasingly turbulent world. As the summit concluded, the world waited to see whether these leaders could rise to the occasion and chart a path toward peace, security, and cooperation for the future. The summit opened with a tense press session featuring Prime Minister Carney and President Trump. Trump quickly set a confrontational tone, fielding questions on Ukraine, immigration, and more, making his positions clear and unfiltered. Carney maintained composure, highlighting the stark contrast in their diplomatic styles. The session underscored the clash between Trump's America First approach and Canada's commitment to multilateralism. Carney decisively ended the press event, signaling a shift from public spectacle to serious negotiations. This move asserted his authority as host and set the stage for focused, substantive discussions. The world saw that, despite political fireworks, Canada was determined to keep the summit on track. President Trump wasted no time challenging the very foundations of the G7, the influential group of the world's leading democracies. From the moment he arrived, his presence signaled a shift in tone and priorities as he openly questioned the group's direction and purpose. One of his most controversial moves was demanding Russia's readmission to the group, a proposal that immediately sparked debate among the other leaders. Trump argued that the G7 could not effectively address global challenges without Russia at the table, referencing the days when the group was known as the G8. He insisted that Russia's presence was essential for resolving major international crises, especially the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, and suggested that excluding Moscow only made solutions more difficult to achieve. Trump did not hesitate to blame previous world leaders for Moscow's exclusion, accusing them of making decisions that undermined the group's effectiveness and global influence. However, this proposal clashed sharply with the G7's identity as an alliance of democracies, especially in light of Russia's actions in Ukraine and its record on human rights and democratic norms. Trump's push for Russia's return threatened to fundamentally alter the group's purpose, shifting it from a values-based alliance rooted in shared democratic ideals to a more pragmatic council of global powers focused on realpolitik. In addition to foreign policy, Trump brought divisive U.S. domestic issues to the international stage, making sweeping claims about immigration and its impact on national security. He linked border security to the safety of nations, arguing that strong borders were essential not just for the U.S., but for all G7 countries facing global migration challenges. These moves highlighted Trump's disruptive agenda as he prioritized his own vision and political goals over the established consensus and traditions of the group. By calling for Russia's return and making bold, often polarizing pronouncements, Trump set the stage for a summit defined by ideological clashes and deep divisions among the leaders. The G7 now faced a critical test. Could it maintain unity in the face of disruption, or would it be reshaped by new alliances and shifting borders? At a pivotal moment in global politics, the G7 leaders, under the guidance of Mark Carney, moved quickly and decisively to reject President Trump's controversial demand to readmit Russia into the group. The proposal, which came amid heightened tensions over Russia's actions in Ukraine, was met with a firm and unified response from all member nations. Carney, acting as a steady hand, helped coordinate this collective stance, ensuring that the group's message was both clear and resolute. The leaders made it unequivocal. Russia would not be welcomed back unless it ended its aggression in Ukraine and demonstrated a genuine respect for international law. This condition was non-negotiable, reflecting the G7's deep commitment to upholding the rules-based international order that has underpinned global stability for decades. By presenting a unified front, the G7 reinforced its dedication to democratic values, national sovereignty, and the principle that might does not make right. Their solidarity sent a powerful signal to the world that the alliance would not be swayed by pressure or divided by outside influence. Mark Carney articulated the group's position with calm resolve, choosing his words carefully to avoid personal confrontation with Trump, yet firmly defending the core principles that bind the G7 together. His leadership helped maintain a respectful tone while making the alliance's stance unmistakable. Trump's additional suggestion to include China in the G7 was also met with considerable skepticism. The leaders reminded him that the G7 was founded as a club of advanced democracies, united by shared values and a commitment to open societies. While the idea of Chinese membership was discussed, it was ultimately and politely dismissed. The consensus was that engagement with China should occur through other international forums, not by altering the fundamental character of the G7 itself. This collective pushback, both on Russia and China, demonstrated the alliance's remarkable resilience and unity, even when faced with internal disagreements and external pressures. The G7 showed it could withstand challenges without compromising its core identity. The G7's identity, rooted in the post-war order and a shared vision for the future, was not up for negotiation. The group made it clear that its foundational values would remain intact. The message to the world was unmistakable. Unity and shared values are the bedrock of the G7, and these principles would not be compromised, no matter the pressure or the proposals put forward. Beyond membership disputes, the G7 faced a packed agenda of global crises. The wars in Ukraine and Gaza dominated discussions, with leaders debating aid, sanctions, and humanitarian relief. Economic anxieties loomed as inflation, supply chain disruptions, and U.S. tariffs strained alliances. Trade tensions, especially over U.S. protectionism, remained unresolved despite some bilateral progress. The Middle East crisis, with Israel and Iran on the brink of war, demanded urgent attention to prevent escalation. Leaders juggled long-term strategy with immediate crisis management, feeling the weight of global instability. The summit highlighted how interconnected crises can overwhelm even the world's most powerful nations. The responsibility on the G7's shoulders was immense. The Israel-Iran conflict became the summit's most urgent issue. Trump called for immediate negotiations, warning Iran against escalation, but kept U.S. military intentions ambiguous. This strategic uncertainty pressured Tehran while keeping options open. In a rare show of unity, the G7 issued a joint statement: Iran must never acquire nuclear weapons. The group called for immediate de-escalation and a return to diplomacy, sending a strong, unified message. This consensus on Iran showcased the G7's enduring relevance in addressing global security threats. The summit was upended when Trump abruptly announced an early departure, citing the Iran crisis. Before leaving, he issued a dramatic warning to Tehran, urging evacuation and reiterating demands on nuclear ambitions. His exit forced the cancellation of key sessions on Ukraine aid and trade, leaving critical issues unresolved. The absence of the U.S. created a leadership vacuum and highlighted the fragility of global diplomacy. Air Force One's departure became a symbol of the summit's disruption and the unpredictability of international affairs. The unfinished agenda left leaders and observers questioning the G7's ability to function amid constant crisis. Despite Trump's early exit, the G7 produced a unified statement on Iran, reaffirming its non-proliferation stance. This achievement showed the group could still find common ground on existential threats. However, major issues, long-term Ukraine support and trade disputes, remained unresolved due to the disrupted schedule. The lack of consensus on aid to Ukraine sent mixed signals to both Kyiv and Moscow. Economic divisions, especially over U.S. tariffs, persisted, straining transatlantic relations. The summit ended with a sense of incompletion, exposing the alliance's internal fractures. Leaders left Canada facing a world as complex and dangerous as when they arrived. Prime Minister Carney's leadership during the turbulent summit reflected Canada's commitment to principled, consensus-driven diplomacy. He steered discussions back to core values, resisting pressure to compromise on issues like Russia's readmission. Carney's approach rallied the G7 around shared democratic ideals, even as deep divisions persisted. His steady hand offered an alternative to disruptive nationalism, emphasizing multilateralism and respect for institutions. Yet, the summit's unresolved challenges highlighted the limits of even the most skilled leadership. The G7's effectiveness depends on all members' willingness to engage and see negotiations through. Still, Carney's performance demonstrated the enduring value of principled leadership in a fractured world.